The church council wants to be sure that you all know how this place is run, how stuff gets done here, and who does it. So for the next few weeks, they've invited the chairs or representatives of some of our different boards and groups to stand up here and say a few words about what each of those groups does. This week is the week for the CE board. So Patty Tooley, the chair of that board, if you would come up and let us know what you guys are all about.
The CE board, as the bylaws state, in short, we are responsible for all Christian education programs for all of the people of our church, including our children, our young adults, the adults, and all other people that want to, of all ages, in all programs. I am the chair, Patty Tooley, of the CE board. Nancy Quinn is our vice chair. Amy Schmidt, I saw her. She's over here. Formerly known as Amy Goodall-Ayers. I know I still can't get used to it. Is our secretary, Stephanie Pasquale, Dave Pazinski, Sam Y, Gert Danzy in the back, and Joanna Bryant is our youth member. I don't think I said Chris Hopkins. She's up in our nursery this morning. And then other members, Liz Pernicki, our director of children, youth, and family ministries, and Quinn Caldwell. I didn't know if you needed I was going to put pastor, but I thought that was good. So all the responsibilities of the CE board include overseeing and implementing educational programs here at Plymouth, including but not limited to the nursery, the learning community, our chapel time and family faith night programs, the senior and junior high youth groups, the mission trips, confirmation, and that's all for our younger generations. For our slightly older but still young at heart, we have our Sunday morning forums, our Bible study, like the one that happens downstairs right after worship, book studies like the new Jim Crow that's happening, Living the Question groups, Covenant community groups, which they'll be talking about today. We're also responsible for hosting the Palm Sunday processional and the Alhambra, and that commemorates Jesus' entrance into Jerusalem. The Heifer Festival, which is a fundraiser, which keeps us remembering the importance of giving back to those that are in desperate need of economic sustainability. And Advent Workshop, which helps us celebrate the season of Advent. But it's not just the CE board members that we need to make all of these things happen. We need you too. We need participants for our book studies, listeners in our forums, teachers in our learning community classes, cooks in the kitchen for all of our events, youth group leaders, crafters, missionaries, and visionaries for all of our programs to happen. Thank you.
So today we're celebrating all throughout our worship service a piece of that Christian education and formation that goes on here, our covenant communities. This is Plymouth's small group ministry that started just about a year ago. About 30 members and friends of Plymouth signed up for that first round of groups, and now we're getting ready for the second round, and we hope that'll include all those ones who did it last time and all you newcomers. Today you'll hear from a number of the participants all through the service this morning. We're witnessing to the power of gathering in small groups, of looking deep into each other's eyes instead of just at the back of each other's heads as you do all day in worship, all morning in worship, asking tough questions, listening hard to one another's stories, and going deep with a smaller group of people. This is the brainchild originally of Elaine Wolfe and Sue Bogucz. Later, Mark Hartman-Souter, Cindy Astouni, and Kathy Tryon stepped in to lend their leadership. I believe in this ministry deeply, and I want to say here at the beginning my thanks to Elaine and Sue, especially for all their work organizing, planning, calling, and getting us together, and then also to Mark and Cindy and Kathy and to all of you who have participated in this. I believe these groups are transformative. We're hoping that by the end of this service, you will believe it too once you hear from some of their participants. Sue Bogucz is going to come forward now to explain just a little bit of the nuts and bolts, the details of how these groups work, so you have a sense of what we're talking about later on in the service. Sue, could you come up?
It was about 2 years ago that Elaine Wolf and I started talking about starting a small group experience here at Plymouth. When we had enough of a plan put together, we talked to Quinn, who was enthusiastic and supportive. He urged us to form a leadership team to help work out the rest of the details. Mark Hartman-Souter, Cindy Ostuni, and Kathy Tryon all agreed to help Elaine and me bring this vision to reality. By last fall, we were ready to go public. In November 2014, we put out a call to this congregation asking if anyone was interested in committing to a small group experience for the coming year. We had a plan. We had the leadership. Kathy and Cindy were willing to lead a group. Mark was willing to lead a group. Elaine and I were willing to spearhead a third group if by any chance there were 30 people interested in a small group experience. Well, for the past year, 30 people have been meeting once a month in each other's homes in 3 separate covenant community groups to explore life's big questions. When we emailed Quinn the response we got, he replied, "That, period, is, period, awesome, period." We thought so too. All the topics have come from group participants, and some of those topics have been, why do I go to church? How do I love my enemies? Hope, identity and aging, spirituality, money, clutter. And in doing this, we have been building friendships and trust and community. When we started a year ago, Elaine and I made a promise that we would continue offering small group opportunity to anyone who was interested. After this morning's service, the 5 of us will host a forum in Memorial Hall to share some more information about groups and to also share a taste of what it's like to be in a group. There will also be opportunity to let us know if you're interested in adding this experience to your own life in 2016 when new groups will form. We look forward to seeing you after the service.
Good morning. Some of you may know me because I've grown up here at Plymouth. Others might know me because I've worked with you on boards or committees. But many others don't know me very well or at all because I'm not often here on Sunday mornings. Part of the reason for that is that I tend to find it easier to feel spiritually connected when I'm alone with my thoughts, and I like to be able to learn and explore ideas related to God and religion through personal independent study like reading and watching videos online. But part of the reason for my not being here Sunday mornings is that the throng of people here in the sanctuary, though it is a great testament to the powerful experience of worship created here, can actually be overwhelming. It can make me feel anxious, at a loss for words, or nervous that I won't be able to communicate with others with the ease that I see many other people do. That's why I wanted to write this all down. Feeling like this can sometimes even get in the way of my attempts to connect with God. But I was really looking for a sense of spiritual community with others. I had some of those same anxious feelings when I sat in on the first trial meeting for the Covenant Communities program a year ago. I was worried about sharing my thoughts on life's big questions. How would people react to my ideas? With boredom, confused looks, disdain? Would anyone care what I had to say? Would I be able to contribute coherently to the discussion? I wanted to at least try it and see what would happen, and I was relieved to find that sharing in the conversation was actually a lot easier than I had thought. Having a small group of people committed to sharing ideas in a safe, respectful, and reflective environment was comforting, and hearing others share their thoughts encouraged me to open up more than I thought I would be able to. After that first meeting, I was still a little unsure of myself, but I knew I wanted to do it again. I decided to join a covenant community group because I was looking to challenge myself, to be more open, to have the opportunity to know other Plymouth people more deeply, and to build on that sense of spiritual community. I was also looking for another way to examine these big, complex ideas. The topics of discussion each month have been widely varied, and yet they all seem to connect in really fascinating ways. And the level of support that each member of the group provides for the others has been wonderful. The broad and diverse experience of a Sunday morning worship service absolutely has a power to it. But for me, the intimacy and depth of the Covenant Community Group has been profoundly engaging and exciting. It's been a nourishing part of my personal spiritual journey, and I look forward to continuing in the coming year.
Much of what Amy just said coincides with some of my experiences in the Covenant group as well. But I just want to share a few things, especially the theme of my little excerpt is that the group, the Covenant group, is like a family. And my experience with family is quite interesting, I think. I grew up in the northeast corner of the state of Nebraska, one of 29 cousins with parents and grandparents. We lived probably within 10 miles of each other, so we were able to visit often, and we spent almost every holiday with all of us together. So we were there as the Anderson family. We didn't all carry the Anderson name, but we were part of the Anderson family. Well, when I moved away and began working on my own, I never again lived near any of my biological family. But I did live in churches, and in many of the churches that I belonged to, Congregational churches, United Church of Christ, we called ourselves the church family. Now, it's a little bit hard to grasp the concept of family when you're talking about a church, because there are so many people. And that's what I liked about my experience in the Covenant group. When we came together, we came together, and the first thing we did was share what's going on in our lives. What are the important things that are happening to us? Good, bad, indifferent. But that was one way that we got to know each other very well. We met in the homes. The host or hostess decided on the topic we were going to discuss for the day. And after hearing what was going on with each other, we knew where the opportunities to pray belonged. And we found that within our group, we had people who were concerned about their own extended families, people who were having major surgery, people who were in hospitals, people who were suffering through untimely death. And this brought us all much closer as a church family. So when I think about what it means to belong to this kind of a covenant group, I think of it as my church family. Because during this year, I've gotten to know each person in this group very well, and it just seemed like we belong together. And it's a kind of experience that I've never had in any other group that I belonged to in a church, whether it was a study group or a couples club or a women's group or something. We never got this kind of in-depth caring for each other. And I treasure that, and I hope that I will find that again in this continued group or in another group. Thank you.
I'm not sure why I was selected to speak representing our group. It may be because I was the oldest one in the group who was willing to do it. And then again, I may have been the youngest one in the group that was willing to do it. For me, the move toward belonging to an ongoing church group with a year's commitment to each other and a year's commitment to meeting monthly began to build as I met individuals in what might be called church bench relationships. This included passing of the peace. I met interesting persons I wanted to know better, but never seemed to get around to it. Also, years ago, Elaine Wolfe, and then more recently, Nancy Quinn, while giving leadership to adult forums, frequently reminded the planning committee that many of the persons here at Plymouth simply wanted fellowship time, and occasionally snacks, but no outside speakers. It was doing some of these open Sundays that I learned more about the tremendous wisdom and wealth of diverse life experiences that members of this church have, and we sometimes have no opportunity to find out about. Then, when Plymouth Covenant groups were discussed, a key question was, do we select our own groups, or do we allow ourselves to be randomly assigned to a group? Our group took the second choice. We were randomly assigned. We lived on the edge. We allowed others to select whom we would meet with for this year's commitment. Having someone else randomly assign members was a good decision for us. We grew to know and like each other better. We had snacks, but no outside speakers. We made our own rules, selected our own topics, met at many of our homes, and I was surprised, and I think we were all surprised, how much we missed meeting one month this summer when we could not find a time. We covered a range of topics selected by revolving leadership. We did not argue over interpretations of Scripture, discuss sermons, or study the Bible. More surprisingly, we did not finalize plans to meet in heaven, although other alternatives were discussed. We did not gossip about the minister, the chorus, the church board, or building committee. In fact, I don't think we ever talked about people here at church, except possibly wondering whether Quinn or the church board would find out the details of what we discussed. My tires are well worn. My age is apparent. It takes focus to stretch the body and the mind. Yet I think that, like Quinn's sermons, each meeting, each person in the group, and each topic we discussed touched me personally and stretched me in a new way that led to new roads to explore. For example, at our last meeting, hope was the topic. Several short quotes were given, and then we were invited to share how hope or its absence in our lives affected us. During the meeting and beyond, I reconsidered hope in new ways. Its nature, its impact on my life, relationships, in different stages of life. I questioned again how hope is spread, Is it contagious and spreads like a germ from persons to persons and place to place? Can it be intentionally given as if served on a platter? Is hope spread more like a radio tower transmission? That is, the best we can do is to transmit hope, but others have to decide whether to turn into it, go to another station, or turn it off altogether. How do we spread hope to our children and grandchildren, to future generations, is an ongoing question many of us face. I also thought about how my response in the past may have stimulated or degraded hope with someone who survived an airline crash, a natural disaster, or a personal disaster. After Friday night in Paris and the war in Syria and other countries, with the many refugees, in the various mass shootings here, I have also reconsidered how man-made versus natural disasters affect people in terms of the hope that they have and the hope that they need. Also considered, what is the role of hope or its absence with the perpetrators? I think that each of us, whether we want to or not, whether we think of it or not, transmit hope or fail in this when others we know face personal or family tragedies. We also spread hope, or fail to, as this church is now taking a close look at, when our neighbors are selectively charged with a felony, losing their freedom and civil rights for things most of us get away with, and even go on to become presidents, principals, professors, or preachers. This covenant group also stimulated me to think more about how hope is or is not transmitted by other institutions beyond criminal justice, be they churches, schools, workplaces, or even the communities in which we live and the political candidates we support. My treads are well worn, but I'm still open to exploring new routes to explore. I plan to sign up for another year, in spite of ambivalence. I'm not ambivalent about covenant groups or signing up. I'm ambivalent about whether I want to sign up with the same group, playing it safe, which I value, or like last year, which I also value, do I again want to live on the edge and accept assignment to a new group with new relationships and the uncertainty, anxiety, and rewards it will bring? Soon, we will all have an opportunity to declare our decision about covenant groups.
As some of you know, the idea for forming small groups at Plymouth came to me as a result of a series of house meetings in the summer of 2013 that I was involved in setting up with Quinn and the Pastoral Relations Committee. The congregation's eager responsiveness to these small neighborhood-based meetings, at which we shared something about our backgrounds, our current lives, and our hopes for the church, energized me, at least, and made me dream of having something like these meetings occur on a regular basis over a long term. But I didn't have a clue as to how to get started. My first step was to contact Sue Bogucz, who I knew had a wealth of experience with organizing and participating in small groups. Fortunately, she said she'd like to work with me on the development of something for Plymouth and getting it off the ground. And then Kathy Tryon, Cindy Ostuni, and Mark Hartman-Sauter also were experienced in participating in small groups and joined us not long after that. Approaching these wonderful people for help and having them say yes seemed positively miraculous to me. And in this entire process, Quinn has been steadfastly and enthusiastically helpful and supportive. I belong to a group of 11 that meets on Monday evenings once a month. I look forward to those meetings, even though I'm normally a person who's most happy staying home in the evening with my husband, Doug Wolf, watching a Netflix disc or reading a book. So I entered into this endeavor hoping to feel stimulated, even excited by the topics, the conversations themselves, and the experience of getting to know people in a new and deliberate way for me. It has been all that I'd hoped for. Among other topics, we've talked about prayer, living a life of learning, and the challenges of caregiving for family members. Now that our first year together is almost over, I'm only looking forward to further community building through grappling with life's big questions with fellow members of the Covenant community.